where jealousy bred hatred, in a field where growth is love. The help we really needed was help from up above. I thought I'd venture to say a word or two about love. About 40 years ago, I remember Kudo Nishijima saying, as a kind of a joke, when somebody was asking him at a Zen retreat about love, he said, I am not good at love, I am good at Buddhism, which might have been about 50% of the truth. Because thinking about the epic poem Saundarananda is really all about love. Part of the difficulty of talking about love is that it covers such a multitude of sins. I think in the last video I made, I was talking about metta-bhavana, the friendly practice of letting happen, or cultivating friendliness, cultivating loving kindness, cultivating love. And then shortly after that, I was telling somebody about the importance of not denying, because recently I like to translate avidya, which means ignorance or unwittingness. Recently I like to translate it as denial, because the real barrier is something stronger than simply ignorance, or in the sense of unwittingness, not realizing what's going on. There's more a willful blindness we're up against in ourselves. A willful blindness which is a kind of denial of what's happening. And I think part of the reason that metta-bhavana is the first of the 4 Brahma viharas, the kind of recreation grounds of spiritual growth that the Buddha spoke of. The first one is metta-bhavana, the friendly practice of letting happen, or the cultivating of love, you could say. And I think it's the first one because it opposes hatred, vyapada. So practice the friendly practice of letting happen, and any hatred will be given up. Or you could say, cultivate the love of letting happen, and any hatred will be given up. And in the latter sense, see, the love of letting happen is loving what's happening. Whatever's happening, you have to learn to love it. Like the Alexander technique teacher Elizabeth Walker said about the Alexander work, you have to learn to love everybody. So that in that sense, it's a kind of a conditional love, a Christian love, unconditional love in the Christian sense of it's not dependent on external conditions. But in this conversation I was referring to, see, somebody was talking about unconditional love, and ever the pedant, I piped up, well, no, it's not. The kind of love we want is not unconditional. It's conditional, because unconditional love will be non-empty love. Empty love, whatever's empty is happening, conditional on everything else that's happening. So in that sense, you see, being pedantic, I was saying, there's no such thing as unconditional love. Real love is dependent on conditions. It's dependent on being caused by conditions. Primary among which he is teaching about it. So in the Old Testament, you've got the exhortation to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. I'm not sure if that's the right order, but anyway, with everything you've got, to love God with everything you've got. And that's a kind of asking for an unconditional love. Whatever happens, the challenge is to love God, to love what's happening. But from the other side, it's not unconditional in the sense that you can't take it for granted. It's the same in a marriage. It's no use thinking that, okay, these two love each other unconditionally. You know, they're deeply in love. It's true love. It's unconditional, and that means you can take it for granted. On the contrary, the conditions for love have to be, in practice, kind of nurtured or cultivated. So, defining terms, conditional love and unconditional love is one thing to be clear about. And then, of course, love covers sexual desire, sensual desire, as well as the friendliness, which is mettam. So in Sanskrit, those two are very different words. Mettam is friendliness. In Sanskrit, that would be maitri. And maitri, as I mentioned before, is from mitra, which means friend. So that's the love of friendship, platonic love, if you like. And then sensual love is karma. Not karma, not K-A-R-M-A, which means action or cause and effect. Karma, K long A-M-A, means sensuality, love, desire. So again, English is more complicated. So when Nishima Sensei was saying, I'm not an expert in love, he means he's not an expert in karma. But he actually, to tell the truth, he wasn't an expert in maitri, in metta either. He was more an expert in mudita and upekkha, which is joy and transcendence. He was strong in those two areas. But when it came to metta, he was weak, as befits a believer in realism. You know, he didn't believe in soft thinking. He believed in hard-nosed reality. So, unconditional love, conditional love. And then another word to be clear about in the same general ballpark is conditioned and unconditioned. So it's important to be clear why people say that nirvāṇa is unconditioned. That is from a different Sanskrit word, which is saṃskṛtaṃ or a-sambaddham. Saṃskṛtaṃ means conditioned, and a-sambaddham means unconditioned. So nirvāṇa is a-sambaddham, because it's natural, it's not fabricated, it's not contrived. So that's a different kind of use of the word condition. Of course, nirvāṇa is dependent on conditions, in the same way that true love is dependent on conditions. So it's conditional in that sense. But it's unconditioned because it's not fabricated. So to really understand that, I mean, I understood that in practice before I began to understand what it meant in theory, thanks to the Alexander technique. Because, as I've explained before in a previous video, to sit, if we understand that what's important in zazen or bhavana, the practice of letting happen, if we understand that upright sitting posture is important, okay, what's liable to happen in our ignorance or in our denial, really, the denial of the principle of emptiness, which I was saying before, that denial is a kind of a hatred of what's happened, of what happens. It's not only an ignorance as to what happens, it's kind of hating what happens. So, you see, if I do my old thing, it's like this. It's an aggressive move. It's kind of I hate kind of being a wimp and being weak and slumping. It pisses me off in me and I see other people. Come on, get the fucking forward and up, That okay, I don't want to be like that. So how do I not be like that? Well, fucking pull your chin in and stiffen your neck and, fucking sit up straight. You pussy. You see, that could be my father, my biological father speaking, that's the conditioning, fucking man up, stiffen your neck and pull your fucking chin in. And in exactly the same vein, 40 years ago, Nishijima Sensei came up to me. I was in a Zen retreat. At lunchtime, I'd taken the opportunity to go for a jog. So I'd come back from the jog and was sitting inside at 2 o'clock sitting. And, it was a hot summer's retreat. So the sweat was still, I felt absolutely great, So for once, I was sitting in quite a happy, peaceful way, just letting the cool sweat evaporate off me. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, Nishijima Sensei appeared behind me, put his index finger there and went, reminding me that it wasn't about sitting around in a kind of easy way, enjoying the breeze. No, you have to do the right posture, you see. So I very much through this resented him for that. As I became clearer that it's not about that; it's the opposite of that. Okay, so let's go back to my pathetic, weedy state. Kind of the lovesick. I'm feeling sorry for myself. All those things. What is the Buddha's teaching? If metta bhavanam is the starting point, what does he mean? Well, it's like Madhuribala said, being wrong is the best friend you've got. That's what you've got to love, your best friend, like you love your best friend. So, how do I change this pathetic state of the wimp, the clingy doer? How do you change it? Well, you don't. You don't change. You don't do anything to try and change it. So I say the first half an hour in the morning I've learnt over the years, I don't make any effort to get any better. It's like it's the principle of no mud, no lotus. That crap is what will turn into compost that will allow the lotus to bloom. So, because in this situation, to do this is a denial of what's happening. You say, no, I hate that state, so I'm going to do something aggressively to get into a different state. No, that doesn't work. That's denial. So, what I've learned to do is nothing. And then, after the longest time that you can endure of doing nothing and being miserable and just sucking it up, and then I send my knees forwards and away, in a friendly way. Let's see what happens in a friendly way, sending the knees forwards and away. Now that's in a friendly way because you're not trying to change directly the thing you don't like. You're accepting the thing you don't like and making an indirect move, which seems to have nothing to do with going up and having good posture. No, I'm asking for a separation at the level of my hips, and it's preventive. It's preventive from doing this. So, am I being clear? Why is that not conditioned? It's not conditioned. It's unconditioned, because it's a natural happening. It's not forced, in other words. It's not fabricated. It's not contrived. So, as a first step on the path to nirvāṇa, we don't want a contrived, fabricated move. We want the uncontrived, natural, unfabricated thing to happen, which in this case is sending the knees forwards and away, allowing the knees to go forwards and away. And so that's, and you could say it's an unconditioned love. It's a love of what's happening. Now, if we talk about the other kind of sensual love, which I referred to at the beginning of the verse, I said, I'll say it again, where jealousy bred hatred, in a field where growth is love, the help we really needed was help from up above. Now that poem comes a lot from reflecting on a verse in Saundarananda, where jealousy bred hatred, in a field where growth is love. So a field where growth is love that's the field that Nishijima Sensei was referring to. The field of Buddhist practice. So growth is love in that sense, growth is metta bhavana. Growth stems from cultivating love of what's happening. But where jealousy bred hatred, he's talking about different kind of love. And that kind of love is referred to in chapter 15, canto 15 of Saundarananda, in this verse, where he says, the Buddha says to Nanda, loke prakriti-bhinne smin. In this world where primal nature is shattered, where original nature is shattered, so that means where emptiness prevails, where original nature is shattered, it means where emptiness prevails, nothing has original nature. So loke prakriti-bhinne smin, na kasya-cit kasya-cit priyah. Nobody or nothing is the beloved of anybody or anything. Now this verse confused me for the longest time, and I translated it completely wrongly the first stab at it, and even on the revised edition of Asvaghosha's Goal, I still didn't hit the target. I thought about it a lot on coming to do the revised edition, but it was only after the thing was published, as typically happens, that the penny dropped what I really wanted to say. So it's nobody is the beloved of anybody. Sounds like a denial of love. Sounds like a very black-pilled kind of observation. But what I realised, it's a denial of possessive love. It's a denial of the kind of love that makes you jealous. Because kasya-cit means of anybody. The genitive suggests in this verse very strongly the possessive. So it means nothing beloved belongs to anybody. Nobody beloved belongs to anybody. So he's not saying that a husband and wife can't love each other, but it's saying that in that loving each other, they don't belong to each other. That's the point. It's a jealousy in that sense comes from the misconception that that person belonged to me. Because in a world where emptiness prevails, in a world where original nature is shattered, nobody can belong to anybody else. And then to expand on that, the second line, karya-karana a-sambaddham, bound together by cause and effect. Bound by cause and effect. So karya means literally the to be done, and that means the effect. And karana means the doing, and that means the cause. But it has a very active sense. So, it's talking about love being conditional, that you have to work at it. So it's not a denial that husband and wife can have a loving relationship for decades, but it is denying that it can happen unconditionally, if you like, not dependent on cause and effect. It's saying it's dependent on cause and effect. So if you want to make a marriage work, pay attention to cause and effect. Don't think, well, they love each other unconditionally, so nothing can go wrong. Karya-karana a-sambaddham, bound by cause and effect, bound together by cause and effect. Baluka mushtivat jagat, the world is like a fistful of sand. Okay, bound together by cause and effect. The world, living beings, are like a fistful of sand, like sand in a fist. So, like grains of sand in a fist. So there's nothing intrinsically holding lovers together. Love won't hack it. Love won't hold the relationship together. What holds things together is cause and effect. So, reflecting on it at the age of 63, I haven't been good at Buddhism or good at love. I would say to say that I'm good at this and not good at that is also not in accordance with emptiness. The teaching of emptiness, as Nagarjuna says, is in MMK chapter 24. For whoever emptiness is workable, everything is workable. For whoever emptiness is not workable, nothing is workable. So, in light of emptiness, every one of us who practices bhāvaḥ, our task is to get better in Buddhism, and more to the point, to get better in love.